Good afternoon to everyone. I'm really honored to be here and to have the occasion to talk to you about our project, that is the RECage project. The RECage project was born in 2018 in Val Seriana region. That is a small region in the northern part of Italy, in a town called Gazzaniga, near Bergamo and Milan, 20 kilometers approximately from Bergamo and 50 from Milan. In this town, this little town, we run a special medical care unit from 2005, in which we can admit people with dementia when they go through a behavioral crisis. In Italy, there are only 2 or 3 medical units like this. This is a special care unit well widespread in Europe, only in France, but not so widespread in other countries, especially in Italy and Greece, where there are very, very few. So in 2018, we decided to write a project with the main objective to adapt, to validate, adapt, and upscale this special medical care unit that we defined with a name that is SCU-B, SCU-B, that is Special Care Unit for Behavior. What is a special SCU-B? The first problem is that there isn't so far a clear and common definition of what a SCU-B is. So we decided to make our own definition. According to that, the SCU-B is a residential medical structure different from that lying in a nursing home, very often lying in a general hospital or in a rehabilitation ward, where patients with BPSD can be temporarily admitted when their behavioral disturbances are not amenable to control at home. The mission of the SCU-B is to improve patients' behavior, and its goal is to permit his coming back home. And how does a SCU-B work? We tried to do a multi-professional approach based on cautious, very cautious pharmacological treatments, and most of all, rehabilitative and non-pharmacological therapies, such as occupational therapies, physiotherapies, and all that non-pharmacological approaches that you all know, such as doll therapy, pet therapy, music therapy, and so on. We try to do that in an appropriate environment, but most important, with a staff that is expert and well-trained. And the training of the staff is the core of our work. We try to go deeply into the history of the people that are with us, try to understand the reason for their behavior, for their not being well, and we try together to manage the situation and to find an equilibrium to consent the person to go back home. As already said, we try to use some well-known approaches, well-known in the fields of dementia care. For example, the gentle care of Moira Jones, or the person-centered care of Thomas Kitwood, or other approaches, well-known approaches. So, as I said, the project started in 2018, and this is the consortium. Our center was the coordinator of the consortium. And we have 11 clinical centers from Italy, Norway, Switzerland, France, Greece, and Germany. 5 of them as SCU-B, and the rest, the other 6 has not. And then we have 6 non-clinical partners, among them the Alzheimer Associations of Italy and Greece, that are responsible for the implementation and adaptation of the project. So we try to, first of all, we try to demonstrate the clinical effectiveness of the SCU-B. And during the 5 years of the project, we did some sub-projects, some work. The first was a clinical trial that was an observative cohort study in which we included 520 patients. Most of them, as you can see, have an Alzheimer diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease, and all had a very severe BPSD. As you can see, the mean NPI score was higher than 50. The trial started in 2018, and the end was at the end of September of 2022. We had lots of dropouts, as I can say that the trial developed during 2020 and 2021 in the very heart of the COVID pandemic. And in fact, our region, Gazzaniga, is very near to 2 towns, I suppose you know, for the history of COVID pandemic, that are Alzano Lombardo and Nembro. You know that the pandemic hit so much in our region. And so maybe the results of the study weren't so good, also by the COVID pandemic. In fact, we couldn't prove the clinical effectiveness of the SCU-B in the long term, but only in the short term. So we performed also a scoping review of the literature. At the end, we analyzed and included 32 studied that talked about some clinical units similar to the SCU-B. Also, in this group of study, there wasn't the proof of the clinical effectiveness in the long term, but only in the short term. And we found some positive results about the satisfaction, both from the person of dementia with dementia point of view and from the caregiver point of view. We also performed a qualitative analysis that gave us some very interesting informations. We included more than 150 stakeholders in all the European countries involved in the project, and performed lots of focus groups and interviews, and analyzed the data with a SWOT analysis. We are aware that this kind of study can say much to us about the clinical effectiveness of the SCU-B, but we are convinced that it can give us lots of interesting information about the acceptability, the replicability, and the potential of for social innovation of this kind of clinical units. So the results of the study are already published and online open access. To conclude our project and to give strength to the result, we decided to organize a consensus conference that was held here in Brussels just 1 month ago. The objective of the conference was to give some recommendation and statements about the conclusion of the project. So we invited a group of experts in the fields of dementia care coming from lots of European countries, and this was the panel of the conference. And some group of experts from the consortium performed a work and group works try to answer some questions that are: which types of SCU-B can be identified? What are the characteristics of different types of SCU-B in terms of target population, structural and organizational aspect? What are the main ethical issues to be addressed? What are the recommended effectiveness and safety outcomes to be considered? And last but not least, what are the main safety issues to be addressed by the staff in relation to restraints measure? With the precious help of the panel, the conclusion of the project were summarized in a document that was presented to the Assembly at the end of the conference. This summary is already online on the web page of the RECage project and also on the Facebook page of the project. I made some copy of that. If you want to take one, they are on the table. I think that this document could be helpful for to try to develop in the future and to implement these kind of special care units. To conclude, some closing remarks. Evidence found in the literature on the acute effectiveness, as well as the shared common experiences from physicians running SCU-B across Europe, show that SCU-B can tackle during acute phase challenging clinical situations not easily amenable to solution at home. The SCU-B can be regarded as socially innovative, as it satisfies a social need that is largely unmet. The unit provides patients and their families with a strong crisis support from a skilled team and is a privileged place for the training of health workers and caregivers. Implementation of new SCU-Bs in countries which lack them completely or have only a few can be recommended, at least in experimental way. In any case, the SCU-B must be only a component of a comprehensive network of dementia care. The SCU-B model received positive feedback from experts in the different countries. The lack of resources is the main barrier to implementing the model. Therefore, a political commitment to putting the SCU-B into practice is essential. And thank you for your attention.